Hey, and we're back. This is Mrs. Hall and
Mr. Halpin. Hall, congratulations on being invited back.
oh gosh, I made it to the second video.
I know, not all of us are shocked, but what can you do?
Oh gosh, okay. So here is a unit that we basically meshed about 3 chapters in because we were able to pull out some things because politics is quite broad. It's not just talking about political parties, but it's also talking about a little bit of the past history, how parties came to be, the media, propaganda, etc. So we're going to get into all of that. So,
well, I'm excited. Well, and do you mind if I get going? Again,
sure.
we'd like to remind you guys at the very top of each study guide is your vocabulary words. We advise you guys to look at all of these vocabulary words before you start actually going through the study guide and see how many of them you know just in the beginning, and then at the end you should know all of these, obviously. So the rise of political parties. So really what this paragraph right here is saying, guys, is that even in colonial times, so like at the very beginning of the unit we studied, there were still political parties in Great Britain. And when the U.S. became independent, many leaders, including George Washington, they didn't really want political parties. George Washington is actually famous for a quote that said, "Political parties will be the death of our nation." And right here, Washington and others feared that the rivalry between the parties would threaten American unity.
And you see that, and it's not, people will say today we're as divided as ever, and yes, there is division in regards to what direction people want the country to go in, but it comes in waves throughout history.
Yes, it does.
And so we as a nation are known as a 2-party system, and that basically just means we have 2 main parties that actually are always going to be on the ballot. It's always a Democrat, it's always a Republican. But it does not mean that we only have 2 parties, but those are the 2 main parties. When we go back into history, just to give you a quick little look, Andrew Jackson actually founded the Democratic Party in 1828, and he was the one who actually introduced the donkey as the symbol. And so eventually who created the Republican Party was the Abraham Lincoln, organized the party. And it came a little bit later than the Democratic Party, but Republicans were the first to actually oppose the spread of slavery. And Thomas Nast is the one cartoonist that was really known during that time period for writing or drawing out political cartoons.
And he really had a hand in both parties, though, which is really interesting.
Yes.
He had a hand in drawing, obviously, out the donkey and making that a symbol for the Democratic Party, as well as the elephant for the Republican Party. So it's kind of amazing that he had his hand in actually both parties.
Right, and those symbols even stuck.
They still stuck nearly 150 years later. And now what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to move on to this paragraph over here, this last one right here. Now, political parties do play some very, very important factors. First of all, they help citizens become more aware of the public issues because obviously as candidates from either Republican or Democratic sides, they're going to support one side of the issue or support the other side of the issue. So these parties really help people become aware of the issues themselves. Also, they're going to hold what's known as a primary election. Now, this is a vocab word, and it is extremely, extremely important. Sorry, guys. There we go. I can't highlight right now. For some reason, my computer is being glitchy. However, you see it right here, primary elections. And this is just an election where the party sees who's going to represent their particular party. They're also going to finance political campaigns, and they're going to write platforms which just express what they believe in.
Right. And the thing is, keep in mind, the Democratic platform or the Republican platform, if you're a Democrat, it doesn't mean you may agree with everything on the platform. And same thing with Republicans. There's going to be some things that kind of stand out and become a little more important to you, and that's why you end up classifying yourself in that party. So we're going to move on down, and we're going to talk about these specific political parties. And again, over time, these have adjusted and changed. So let's go down here to the Democrats. And these are just typicals. It does not mean that every single Democrat believes this, but this is all information that comes straight from their platforms on their official websites. So Democrats favor using more government to provide services, health care for all, pro-immigration. Typically, you'll a lot of times hear the opposing side basically saying they don't want borders, let anybody in. And that's pretty much usually, like now, you really see Democrats and Republicans are total opposites on almost everything. LGBT rights. Typically, your Democrat's going to be a little more pro-worker. You'll see them actually pushing for higher wages for the worker. Does not support building of the wall. And again, that goes back to the open border method. Tends to support tax increase, especially for those that make more money. So basically targeting the rich. More business regulations. They typically do not agree that ID should be required to vote. And generally, under Democrat leadership, you'll see cuts going towards the military. Republicans, they believe in less government. They feel like if you're going to be coming into the country, that you should be properly vetted. And what that means is, our policy has always been you bring in the good people and basically do a background check on them. Most Republicans are going to support the wall, the building of the wall. They're pro-Second Amendment. Not everybody, but most is going to be anti-abortion, pro-business. It's not basically the Republicans would be the ones that would deregulate, meaning they would chop off a lot of these things that strangle the small businesses, which would allow them to bring in more money, which in essence allows them to hire more people. Once you get people working, they kind of look at it as it gets money in the pocket. When you have money in the pocket, you go out and spend. America First will provide more for the military and wants to fix the border issue. Now, third parties, those are going to be all the other parties. And you've got a big variety when you actually go in and look up current political third parties. I want to say it was in the 50s, but usually the numbers are quite low. The most popular third party is going to be your Libertarian Party. They do favor less government, more freedom of speech, religion, etc. Free market, which is what we have, which is capitalism. They believe in reduced taxes and definitely get the government out of our business is basically what you're going to have in regards to libertarian. Which when you get to the communists, we actually do shockingly have a small communist party, third party in the United States. But typically when it comes to socialism and communism, you start getting more government involvement, less freedoms. So communism, basically it says committed to the overthrow of presently existing oppressive republic and all of its economic and social institutions. So what that basically means is that the government's going to come in and take over those companies.
So that again, they lose those freedoms, those companies do, but the basic sense is that what they will say, the basic sense is that everyone's going to be treated the same. However, it rarely works out that way if you look at society. It's
almost as though it's like putting a paper bag on everybody's head. Everything's bland. Everybody's the exact same.
Like the doctor will make as much as like the janitor will in their society.
Correct. Socialism, which surprisingly has taken on a big push here with the younger Americans. It supports minimum wage to be at least $15 an hour. But what you're going to see with a lot of the socialist candidates is that they're going to be out there pushing that everything is free. Well, nothing's free. And that's one way in hooking the younger people. If they know their college is free, they know education is free. If they know every single thing they can get is free,
Correct. And I think it's really important to know, guys, where they would try to take the money from here. They would be reducing the funding that goes into the military. That's one of the areas that they would try to take funding away from. And you'll see that in your study guide.
Correct.
Over, where is it?
Right there.
Right there. Perfect.
So And the thing is, nothing is ever free. It's got to be taken from somewhere. And so, when it comes to socialism, people just need to kind of look into some history and get a good idea of what they're actually voting for. The nomination process. Political parties, they're really looking for that one person that is going to be able to represent their party and win. Mm-hmm. And so right now we're in the middle of the primary for the Democrats. And so what they're trying to do is make those last minute debates and speeches, and they're trying to get out there and talk to the people. So when it's time for each state to go and do their votes for the primary elections, the Democrats will go and vote for them specifically. Who ends up getting the most votes will end up winning the primary election, and then they'll get to go to the general election and go up against Trump.
Correct. And that's the thing, and Ms. Hull kind of hit the nail on the head here, but right now in the primary election, what you're going to hear a lot of is who can beat President Trump. And that's what they're really looking for. They're looking for somebody who has ideals that they support, but also the person who's going to be able to beat the person on the other side of the issue. And that's what you're going to hear a lot of in the primary elections. Are you able to beat the person across from you?
Correct. So political campaigns are extremely important. And one thing that probably made Trump successful being a non-politician was he circumvented or went around the media. He uses Twitter all the time, but he decides that he's going to basically talk straight to the people instead of going through the media because he feels like he hasn't had a fair shake anyway. But anyway, you've got different things that you can go do when it comes to political campaigns. If I'm running, I could go out and I could have pamphlets. I could go out and have town hall meetings. I can go and have rallies. I can have commercials put out. But again, all of this takes a lot of money. And so what you're looking at is the cost of a presidential campaign in 2016 was close to $2.5 billion. And so it's a lot of money. You'll also have PACs, which are political action committees that are basically created by groups of supporters, and they basically provide larger sums of money indirectly to the candidate. They can't give it straight to the candidate. However, they could do like a commercial for a candidate in support of something, so that they can actually say it's the PAC ad that we're putting out, but we're showing you why you should vote for this specific candidate.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's some really important things that you have to do when you're evaluating your candidates. The first is you really have to look at their background, their education, their employment, and their achievements. And you have to say, do we think this person would be a good candidate for whatever position they're running for? Specifically, it could be president, could be really whatever. Next, is he or she an incumbent? Now, as you're going to read this basically says it's an official already holding the position but running for re-election.
So Trump would be the incumbent.
Correct.
For this next general election.
Mm-hmm, exactly right. Already holding the position. And lastly, how does the candidate stand on the issues, and how do they perform under pressure such as debates? Because obviously those can be very, very stressful to the candidates.
Oh, yes. Debates are frustrating because people are all trying to get their last few minutes or opportunities to be able to prove to the people what they believe in. And everybody, you will see for the debates that everybody's just talking over each other, and all of a sudden they start getting a little snippy. Now, once your candidates are selected or elected, should I say, for the primary, now you're going to have the general election, and elections basically happen at the polling place. After about a year of going out and doing really hard campaigning, now that you know who you're going up against, you got to get the word out. Now, a polling place, you basically have to, in order to vote, you pre-register beforehand. You've got to be registered to vote. Now, fraud has been an issue. You actually have had dead people voting.
Correct. And how they'll go about to make that happen is if somebody has the same name as maybe a relative who's died or someone along there, such as if somebody had the same name as Miss Hall over here, they could walk in there, say that's what their residence is, show them their name, and then all of a sudden they're registering to vote under that person's name.
Right. And so it's been a big issue. The National Voter Registration Act of 1993 actually required states to offer voter registrations at the same time that you went in and applied for your driver's license. So, that was a nice push to try to get people involved, get people to get out and vote.
And really quick, I want to highlight on the fact really quick because I think we skipped over it. The polling place, the place where is just the place where you actually vote. So that's the official term for it, the polling place.
Yes. Now, let's talk about interest groups. Let's say, for instance, I work for AT&T, and I'm what's called a lobbyist. Mm-hmm. My interest is any type of legislation that's going to come down from Congress that deals with our cell phones, because my goal is I need our company to make the most money.
So if I were to come out with an act, and I was a politician, I were to come out with an act saying you can't use your phones from 8 p.m. until 8 a.m. the next morning, you would obviously have a very big interest in making sure that doesn't come out.
Oh, yes. I would have to, for one, I would giggle thinking, I can't imagine you getting reelected. But
it would be tough.
I would definitely, as a lobbyist, go up to D.C. and I would be out there explaining to the congressmen why they should vote against this, because it's going to directly impact our business, because we're not making as much money. We're not able to hire as much. So unemployment will go up, and there's different things, and it'll eventually slow your economy because you'll have less people bringing in money. So again, as a lobbyist, my job is to encourage the promotion of our Wi-Fi or our cell phone company, not anything that will hurt it. Now, the media, it's interesting because years and years and years ago, the media, meaning like the news, they really were the watchdog. In other words, if something happened, they were there to sniff out the wrong. However, they also protected their presidents as well. Like JFK was a prime example. They were really, really kind to him. Today, it's a lot different. So depending on what party you're on, it doesn't, no matter what, you're going to get nailed. You've got television companies that have a huge bias, and they put out a lot of propaganda in regards to what goes out. Just to give a prime example, well, for one, bias is when a television company sits there and talks about how
maybe they'll ignore the facts for one side. However, they'll kind of try to put certain facts that make their side look better. I don't know if that makes sense.
Like if they say this candidate is horrible. This candidate, I would never vote for him. This candidate does this. That's not a news station. That's I'm trying to convince you. Propaganda is one of those things, and I could give you a prime example. And I think all parties have been guilty of this in the past. But like when Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, said that the world will be Armageddon in regards to, I want to say it was the tax cut or something like that. And so what propaganda is when you're actually going and trying to create that fear. They get people emotional. Okay, so they got to watch that.
And we also want to make sure we highlight on the word symbolism. Guys, symbolism is just using a symbol to be able to communicate. And an example of a symbol would be the donkey for the Democratic Party. It's just a way to try to communicate a message of what you represent.
And a great example for symbolism would be the American flag. Typically, you'll see when you're going to a political rally, people notice real quick if there is not an American flag on that stage, because that's symbolizing patriotism, the love for one's country. Okay. Opinion polls. Now, I've got an opinion on these opinion polls, but oftentimes, what these are is they'll go out and they will pick certain select groups of people, and then they will ask certain questions. But you have to be careful how questions are actually asked. And sometimes with these opinion polls, they might, let's say, for instance, they go in and they just ask mainly Republicans. It's not really a good opinion poll because they were really kind of skewed on their questioning. You want a balanced look from both sides and the middle. So in the past, this is a prime example, the opinion polls that they had taken with Clinton was that she was just going to wipe Trump clean on the last election, and a lot of it was just total opposite. And people were like, how could these polls be wrong? Well, there's a possibility you had some propaganda going on with that as well.
Mm-hmm. So public policy, guys, right here, and this is obviously the next section, public policy is just an action taken by the government to help solve problems and also achieve goals. So really it works two ways. Again, it's the fold of solving the issues themselves, but as well as meeting the goals that they do. For example, one public policy that President Trump has ran on is building the wall. So it's to try to help solve the immigration issue. And again, not saying you have to say there's an immigration issue, but that's their party's platform, as well as achieving the goal of that. So I don't know if you want to add on to that at all.
Right. With public policy, there is a process. They do have several steps that they actually go through. And, first off, the big thing is going to be identifying the problem, but then going in and gathering data. It's important to be able to know what you're talking about and what you're referencing. Then you basically break it down. What level of government is going to be best to address this issue? And then, of course, you start developing these different options or policies, or in other words, brainstorming ideas on what we can do to solve the issue. You even break it down so much to where you're evaluating the pros and the cons of each option. And then you choose the best option and then you implement. But it's important that you do enough research instead of just making let's just stab at this and let's go and see if it'll work.
And lastly, obviously, again, it's evaluating the effectiveness of the plan too. All right, so the next thing we have right here, guys, is multiple perspectives. So groups often look at issues differently because of their different economic or cultural interests. So this is just saying basically that everyone's really got a different opinion, and there are reasons why that they have a different opinion, or reasons why they have a different opinion.
And it's interesting to actually see all the different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
I think it really makes for a nice, rich discussion. And when it comes to hearing those different multiple perspectives is the fact that we actually can appreciate them. You don't always have to agree, but again, everybody sees things a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
And the very last thing for this is public policy solutions versus private community service solutions. It's not always something that, it says not every problem requires a public policy solution. Some problems are best solved through community services. Heck, you could go through and if you have a homeless population, years ago, oftentimes the church would actually go through and they took care of a lot of that. Well, the government has just jumped in and tried, to solve a lot of this, but obviously it's not working. But some problems are better solved through the community, and I think that's what they're getting at. For example, we have Caring and Sharing collects food right here in our own city or town.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's basically the whole study guide.
Yeah, so we appreciate you listening, and let us know if you have any questions.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll talk to you later, guys.